Hey guys, this is Matt Wenning at WenningStrength.com, and we're going to talk about a touchy subject today, which is the 3 muscle groups that most people overdo and cause all kinds of issues. And I want to make sure that you guys aren't overdoing them or maybe even slightly eliminating them from your program. So let's get to it. So in the gym, it can be difficult, especially as a beginner or intermediate lifter, to pick exercises that are not only potent to putting on muscle, but also safe and effective in protecting the joints. Remember that no matter how big and strong your muscles get, once your knee, your elbow, your shoulder, or your back at the joint level is trashed, you are no longer going to lift heavy, or you're going to be very limited to the things you can do. But what you find is in a normal gym bro setting, most people are not focused on joint health. They're just focused on the aesthetic muscle part. That should be the second, third, maybe fourth or fifth thing that you're focused on if you want to do this to reach maximal potential. And what does that mean? That means if you're only training a couple of years and you start accumulating all these different injuries, you're never going to be as big as strong as a guy that takes his time, does it smart, and can train for 15 years straight. Notice that a lot of the pro bodybuilders don't even become their best until their early mid-30s. Well, you have to last that long to get that much muscle tissue, okay? So I want to go into the 3 exercises that I would either heavily modify into something else or completely avoid. The first one is pec flies. Now, I know that every time I walk into a gym and nobody knows who I am and I'm at some commercial place, if I'm traveling, you see 20 dudes doing a boatload of pec work with very little posterior chain work. Well, over time, that's going to cause a lot of posture damage. It's going to cause a lot of shoulder issues. And it's also going to degrade form when you go to compound movements like the bench press. So what we have to learn is that the pec in the bench press is a stabilizer, not necessarily a pressor. Your triceps are the main mover, but if you're training a ton of pecs, your brain's motor patterns are going to go to those muscle groups, and it's going to cause a lot of technical issues when you decide to do any kind of compound movements. So I would drastically limit or completely avoid pec flies, at least until your technique is perfect and your back is balanced first. The next exercise that I've never been a fan of, and I've done some pretty high level videos on, is military pressing, nearly of every type. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't do them occasionally, but I find that people do them on a weekly basis. Then they start complaining about having shoulder issues. Well, duh, right? The position of the shoulder in that particular angle is going to cause a lot of damage at the joint just because it's going to grind into itself. So the shoulder joint in and of itself is allowed to go overhead, but it's mostly made to do fine-tuned movement patterns, not to be heavily loaded. So what I find is that military presses can be done sparingly, but done all the time is going to cause joint damage where the clavicle and everything meets at the AC joint. Therefore, you're going to start having issues and start limiting what you can do. So with military presses, to make them a little bit better, you can take it from being a strict up and down to a little bit of a high incline, and that will help create a little bit less pressure at the shoulder joint and give you still maximal shoulder results. The next thing is, instead of doing military presses, do lateral raises and face pulls to build the back and the side delt. Now here's the problem is most people have very strong anterior delts. So you see people doing a lot of front raises, at a normal gym that don't know what they're doing, and all they're doing is grenading their posture. If you're doing bench pressing and all those different factors, your anterior delt's already going to be pretty developed. But what you have to remember is daily life, when you're moving around, picking stuff up off your desk, stuff out of the garage, your anterior delt is firing all the time. So it's already heavily connected. Connect the lateral and the rear delt before you do any kind of extra shoulder work, and that'll help as well. The next particular muscle group that I feel is earned, and we've done a video on this before, but I feel is earned, is biceps. Now biceps, there's nothing wrong with them, but if you ask any gym bro or anybody walking around the gym, hey, what's one of the muscle groups that you really want to be super jacked? About 85-90% of the persons are going to say biceps. The problem is most people I've seen that have very heavily developed biceps have torn labrums in their shoulders, they have terrible posture, and their bodies is self-grenading because that muscle group is so dominant from being trained way over amount. So what I suggest is that you get your upper back super strong, your rhomboids and your rear delts to hold posture before you build your bicep. The next big factor that I can give you guys is let your biceps grow secondarily from doing more back work. So if you're doing rows and you're doing pull downs and things of that nature, the bicep is going to grow automatically from training the back. It's kind of a synergistic muscle that works in conjunction with those other muscles. Don't primarily isolate the bicep until your upper back is extremely strong and extremely developed so you don't grenade your posture. So I hope this video has helped. If you need any more information, go to WenningStrength.com, take a look at our manuals, or hop on Patreon where we show all kinds of workouts and you can ask me more questions. Talk to you guys soon.